Simon Hoese is from Berlin, Germany, and manages the newly established supply chain lab of Imperial Logistics in Cape Town. He joined Imperial Logistics as management assistant for the chief information officer with a major focus on building a global IT community. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Simon Hoese.
Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Simon Hoese. I represent Imperial Logistics. As you might hear, I'm not from South Africa. I'm from Germany, and I've been in South Africa for 10 months, and I met some absolutely astonishing people here, I must say. I think it's a great place. I think it's a great country, and besides all supply chain risks we heard about earlier, besides all economic downturns and other challenges, I think it's important to stay optimistic. I think that's important. But today I'm here to talk about collaboration and design thinking. The time of the day that I'm speaking is obviously a bit challenging. I'm aware the bar is opening soon, and I'll try to keep it short and straight to the point. So I would like to use the next 30 minutes to quickly discuss some challenges, internal, but also in the external world around Imperial Logistics. I would like to give you an introduction to design thinking and how we use it as a powerful tool to work on complex challenges. And I would like to quickly finish with a case study that we worked on and about some lessons learned that I want to share. So in a nutshell, Imperial Logistics, very short and to the point, we have about 30,000 employees in 38 countries. We are structured in 3 main regions in Europe, Africa, and South Africa. We are ranked between the top 25 logistics providers in the world. We see that as a clear strength. Some say that's also a challenge. We really believe this is a great opportunity for us. We've grown in the past strongly through acquisitions, and we've also implemented a new global strategy, and one of the key values we have is to collaborate. So the question obviously is, so many employees in so many different countries and regions with such diverse background, how do you make sure that they collaborate effectively where challenges in logistics are sometimes very similar, regardless if you're in Nigeria or if you're in Poland? If we look into the world around us, we see that there are obviously some social and environmental megatrends, climate change, urbanization, people move into cities. We also see that there are a lot of new technologies coming up, Internet of Things, blockchain, artificial intelligence. There are a lot of speeches here also about these technologies. We heard in the morning sessions about them, and everybody's trying to find out how can we use these new opportunities and benefit from them. We also see that especially corporate companies are challenged by a lot of competition. There are a lot of startup companies coming up and disrupt the industry. And the question is, how do we deal with this new setup? So this is the world around us. If we look into the skill set that is actually required in the future, there's some very interesting research done by the World Economic Forum. So the top 10 skills required in 2015, we see here the list. The top 3 are actually complex problem solving, coordinating with others, and people management. If we then look into the required skill set in 2020, we see that there are actually quite a bit of change. To be precise, there are 2 main skills that are actually required in the top 3, which are critical thinking and creativity. So the question is, how do you adapt to these challenges? And so what do you do as a big corporate company? And we have set together and we defined our future and developed a global digitalization strategy. And it started with one mission statement that we have created. So we say we want to create a culture where digitalization enables our people, clients, and partners to innovate and continuously improve to achieve competitiveness and differentiation. I think a lot of valuable parts in this mission statement, but the question, how do you make it work? So we have further developed our strategy and have different components. I just want to go through the main parts of it. Based on this mission statement, we have developed 4 main priorities, focusing on efficiency, visibility, and cost reduction, but also new business models. We have also created 3 main dimensions. flawless execution, organization and people, and innovation, all those in order to serve our clients in the best way. Client centricity is of major importance for us, and that's why we have come up with this structure. But obviously, you need to break it further down. We've come to certain mission objectives. Just want to share the key ones: visibility, competitive and innovative workforce, but also new business models. New business models. We heard that before. We have further broken it down into 27 work packages to make sure that it's manageable, that it's actually that we can assign resources, and that we can make sure that we manage and achieve this digital strategy. The question still is, what kind of tools do you want to use? There are some established tools that have proven to be very successful, and still we raised also the question, what kind of tools, what kind of new tools can we add to our toolbox? And we did not develop new tools by ourselves. We also had a look outside, what are other companies doing, and other successful companies obviously doing. And as you might know, design thinking is not a new concept. It has been around for quite a few decades, but there is a lot of research, and this is just one example where 16 companies of the Standard & Poor's 500 index, which are actually applying design thinking quite excessively, are compared to the index itself. And as you can see, there's quite a significant better performance by these design-centric companies. So that's why we said, okay, we should use this. You should use and add this tool to our procedures. And I'm sure you have seen this picture today before. I'm actually quite glad that Sean Cuvey brought it up in the morning. There was this quiz, where's the car in the picture? Not sure if you have spent the day thinking about it. I want to solve the puzzle. The car is here. This is still New York, around 1900. So there's one car. Everybody else is commuting by horses. And I choose this picture, which is actually from a presentation of Tony Sebo, who had a presentation about a year ago about disruption in transportation. And I bring it up here because it's all about the user need. Design thinking is about the actual user need, the users in the center of all discussions. And for this example, it's just this classical statement that I'm sure you have heard before by Henry Ford. If they would have asked me what they want, they would have said more horses. But the actual need of the users is obviously transportation. Many users are not aware what their actual need is. They just try to solve things. They solve them how they solved them before. And that's just, I think, a good example to explain it. If we would look at a picture of Berlin, for example, 5-10 years ago, we would probably see the first car-sharing cars in the picture, which is still quite a new concept, but by today a very common and very popular way to get from point A to point B, comfortable, safe, and reliable. So introducing design thinking in a nutshell, I'm not a big fan of long definitions. This one is the shortest and most insightful one that I found. Design thinking is a user-centered approach for innovation, and it integrates the needs of people, the possibilities of technology, and the requirements of business success. It's very important that the workshops and the tools we are applying, that they capture value at the end. That's very important, and it's a key for us. So business success must be on the agenda. That's very important, but it's all about this user-centered approach. The user is of the highest priority. To give you another example, typical behavior, you have a problem, people go straight into solution mode. People say, I know the solution, let's do it this way, I've seen it somewhere else, and very often you don't spend the time to go back and to analyze what is the actual user need. And that's exactly what design thinking is doing, where they put a lot of emphasis on and where they drill into details. And I will explain to you in a minute how this is done. So how does it start? It all starts with a challenge statement. You cannot solve it all in one go. You have to slice the elephant, so to say, and you have to come up with a very specific challenge statement that you're trying to solve. Not all challenges are actually suitable to be solved by design thinking. If you think about a new taxation standard that you have to apply, you cannot be really creative about this. This is definitely not a good challenge to be solved with design thinking. If you think about how can I ensure that my truck drivers or warehouse staff get closer to a more healthy lifestyle, that would be a challenge that you could very good solve with design thinking. if you want to, because there's just a lot of new ideas. There are a lot of solutions. There's not a standard solution to this challenge in particular. You can come up with a lot of ideas how you want to solve this challenge, for example. So what are the key components of design thinking? There are three key components, three features: people, location, and process. If we think about the people, it's all about diversity, a bit depending on the challenge, but you want people of different age, of different field of expertise. You want people of different hierarchy levels, but also different duration of how long they are employed with the company. Because you want some fresh minds, you want some young minds, and you want to combine and make the most out of this diverse workforce that you have. It's also very important that you have ownership. You need a decision maker, you need senior management support. Design thinking experience is a big plus, that you don't have to teach people how this process really works, but that they can go straight into the challenge. And obviously the mindset is a key component. You want open-minded people who don't think only about the standards which are existing for a long time, but you want people who think out of the box and are creative and say, let's step out of our normal business environment and let's think about what would be the best fit for the user need that we have identified. Location, also quite important. It must be interactive. You should not run it in a classic old-school boardroom. It should be a dynamic place. You should adapt it to the challenges and the different parts of the process. And yeah, it should be flexible. Obviously enough space for this exercise, because you're going to create a lot of deliverables, and you're going to have a lot of small results created over the 5-day process. And you need to go back to them at some stage. It's an iterative process, and that's why it's very important that you have enough room for documenting your results. The process is, from my point of view, the key differentiator. It's, I think, the big plus of this tool, and I want to just go in a bit more detail here. In total, there are 6 steps. As mentioned, the first part, it's all about understanding the user need. It's about design the right thing. Understand and verify the challenge. It's about understand where does the challenge come from. How can you break it down? Is everybody in the group understanding the challenge in the same way? It's then about observation. You're running 25 to 30 interviews with different people, internal, external. We're running it with people in our global environment. So we had a workshop a few weeks ago. We involved people from Europe, from Nairobi, from Kenya, from Lagos, Nigeria, and obviously South Africa. And so that's what we do in the observe phase. And it's then about to drill it and to filter it down, again, to very specific point of view statements. That's the first part. And believe me, it's really challenging not to think in the solution. We try very much, and we remind all participants continuously to think about the challenge first. It's not easy, but we remind people very often to not lose focus on the problem for the first part. The second part is then design the thing right. It's all about ideation. It's all about creating ideas. It's all about prototyping. So we're trying to create a lot of ideas, as we will see in a minute. We're really talking about some hundreds of ideas which can be a component of this prototype. It's then about to cluster these ideas, to create a prototype, and to test it at the end. Yeah? You want to run, again, 25 to 30 interviews, and to test your prototype and to check if this is really matching the user need that you have identified in the first half of the workshop. What are 2 characteristics about this process? It's an iterative process. You can go back to earlier stages at all parts, and that's actually a strength. If you find out at some stage, okay, the test results are actually indicating that we understood something wrong, you can go back and justify again why you thought this would be right. You can drill down into more detail and verify certain observations. It's also a divergent and convergent process. So at the first part, you start with a challenge statement, which is basically 1 sentence. You get into interview results of 25 to 30 people, which is a lot of material, a lot of insights you're generating. And then at the end, you drill it, you narrow it down again to specific point of view statements. The same happens in the second part with a prototype at the end that is presented then in 10, 15 minutes usually. So how do we use design thinking at Imperial Logistics? We have 4 standard workshop formats. we are running with our clients. We partly run them also internally. It usually starts with the one-day exploration workshop where we meet with our clients and we have an open discussion. We show what we're doing in the field of innovation and digitalization. We then exchange what are the activities on both sides, what are the challenges of our clients. We're trying to identify first fields where we could potentially look into more detail to find a solution with them together. We have then a 2-day workshop format. We call it Focus Workshop, where we then look into more specific challenges. We also run these 2-day workshops as a supply chain strategy workshop where we look into the complete supply chain of our clients and identify together where are bottlenecks, where are challenges, and how can we solve them. Design thinking or a design sprint might be a tool to be used, but it's definitely not the one tool that fixes it all. So as I stated before, the challenge must be suitable for a design sprint. We then also have the actual design sprint that you can run for 5 days usually. And we also have a 6-week exercise. We call it minimal viable product. That is then the exercise where you create a market-ready product, a platform, for example, that you can then actually implement. So overall, it's really a process from the first idea to a market-ready product that can take you, if you really push it, into 2-3 months' time, which is really not a long time to solve a problem that you have identified. So how does it look like? These are some of the impressions of our most recent design sprint we have run just about 4 weeks ago here in Cape Town. As you see in the top left corner, this is the room setup. It's very different to a boardroom-style workshop format. It's very creative. You have small teams of 4 to 6 people, so you need to focus. There's no room to hide. That's very active participation. It's focus time for 5 days. That's probably the biggest investment that you have to commit to say, I stay away from my emails, from my other meetings. I focus for 5 days on this challenge with this team. What you can also see is on the bottom left corner, we develop interview questions. We have a lot of ideas that we generate. Time management is very important. I'm sure you have seen these countdown clocks. We see a quick picture of the video interviews that we were running with our colleagues in Lagos. And you see the test results on the bottom right, and actually also this shoebox on the bottom right. For some people, it's a shoebox. For us, it's the prototype. That's the result of the 5-day work. Prototypes are, in design thinking, always cheap, and they are never perfect, because we don't spend a lot of money on prototypes. It's about selling the idea that we have generated and explaining functionalities and features without spending a lot of money. So that's actually also one of the key advantages of this tool. So what are the key benefits of this methodology, of this tool? It's fast, it's effective, and it's very good value for the invested resources. Within only 5 days, you have created understanding. In many cases, you have actually also created alignment between the participants. And you have created many hundred ideas. You have developed a prototype that is tested. You have test results. And you even have a roadmap how you can implement this further in the weeks after the design sprint. It's also a very structured process. You have very clear understanding of what you will deliver. There are about 25 smaller deliverables that you will create, and they are by definition always available at the end of this workshop process. It also includes the wider organization. We run these sessions actually not only within our global organization, but also with other corporates, with other startup companies that we meet in the co-creation spaces where we work. So we have included other big corporates in our workshop phases before, and we see that very valuable. There are many challenges that you share with other companies, even if they might be in a very different industry. This is very valuable to learn also from them. It's a new way of collaboration, obviously, and we would even consider to involve our competitors if that would be creating a win-win situation for us. Last but not least, the opportunity to iterate and fine-tune. As I mentioned, this is a characteristic of the process, and we think this is really a key benefit of this, that you can always go back and justify what you have developed. A couple of success factors that we think are important based on the many workshops that we have been running in Europe as in South Africa. The challenge suitability is absolutely key. You need to check if this challenge that you're trying to solve is suitable for design thinking. Think about the wrong tool that you're trying to use to fasten a screw. It must be suitable, otherwise it's the wrong tool and you should not use it. But in many cases, we have run this, and another success factor is profession facilitation. As with many other workshops, we strongly believe that this is actually one of the key factors that can make up for many other factors that are here, even also on the list. So professional facilitation, experienced facilitation is definitely important. Team setup and attitude, as mentioned before, diversity, open-minded people that want to create something new, find a solution. It's very important. Adequate interview partners. It's a lot of effort to create and to organize all these interviews, but you will get a lot of value out of them. We usually run them within 20 minutes, so we're not going to go for a 2-hour interview session. It's quick, it's fast. We split it into small teams, and you get a lot of insights actually in these 20-minute interviews. Senior management support, suitable location. It doesn't have to be the ideal design thinking location. You don't need design thinking furniture to have a successful workshop, but it can definitely help. Last but not least, do not underestimate exhaustion. These sessions are very, very intensive. We usually don't plan anything in the evenings. If you have been through an 8 or 9 hour active workshop participation, you will know that this is really, really intense. If you run this then for 4 or 5 days, you will find yourself very, very exhausted after this week. This will challenge you, I can tell you out of my experience. So I'm coming to the last part, the case study. It's about 1.5 years ago that one of our employees actually had the idea to solve the challenge of on-demand warehouse capacity. He was looking on short notice for a couple of hundred pallet spots, and he said, well, what can I do to identify now these availability in our organization? I could obviously pick up the phone and call about 80 colleagues to ask them if they have capacity available, and he said, well, we should be able to do this simpler. There must be something smarter we can do. So we actually run exactly through the process that I was explaining earlier. We were running a 1-day workshop in Berlin in our supply chain lab. We were running a 5-day creathon session. We created a prototype, tested it within our organization. We were running through the 6-week exercise, and today Sharehouse is actually an online platform that is available in Germany, and if you're looking for on-demand warehouse capacity with additional value-added services, then you can go on the platform, and with a few clicks, you can actually book your warehouse in Germany, your capacity on short notice. And we think that this is the way we want to go. This is the way we want to disrupt the industry. We have a lot of other ideas we are working on. And obviously, if you're interested in any of these workshop formats, then we are very welcome and happy to facilitate these sessions together with you. Thank you very much for your attention. That was Collaboration 4.0.